Okay, okay. In this video, we're going to try and tease apart what each of these separate parts of our really simple program are. And I only say really simple because I have some experience programming. A newcomer to this might think this is really complicated, and for a newcomer, it is. So don't feel discouraged if you run into errors or you can't figure out how to navigate the shell. There's plenty of resources out there about how to do those things, and they're more well done than I can do them. So again, I might do a shell programming series to help supplement this, but I'm not sure yet. Anyways, so let's just go line by line and try and understand what's going on here. What I'm going to introduce you to here is a comment. A comment, when you run your source code through the compiler, a comment is ignored by the compiler, so it doesn't mean anything to the compiler. But to a reader of your source code, which would be you're creating the source code, you might want to leave comments for yourself to help explain what's going on each line of this program that we've written. So Brian Kernighan and Dennis Ritchie says this includes information about the standard library. Now, what the heck is the standard library? The standard library is a set of functionality that pretty much all programs are expected to use some of it. In our example here, printf is a function from the standard library. If we don't include this and we try to compile our program, I'll show you what happens. So we're going to get something a little different here. Hello world.exe, hello world.c. Oh man, what is going on here? So the compiler is complaining. It says implicit declaration of function printf. Now, that's just a bunch of jargon to me at this point, and probably to you at this point, but all it's saying is that, hey, if you're going to use printf, it comes from somewhere, and where it comes from is the standard library. So standard io.h. So we'll go to the next line here, main. What is main? Main is where every program begins execution. And in the book, it says define a function named main that receives no argument values. What are argument values, huh? That's pretty weird. What does that mean? Well, there's a way for you to pass data from the shell to your program, and it's through argument values, and we'll explore that in the future. Here it says statements of main are enclosed in braces. So whenever you define a function, there has to be a set of curly braces which defines the body of the function, and the body of the function is the set of statements that are going to be executed by the computer. Maybe that's word salad to you now, but hopefully it becomes clear as we move forward. There was a great quote by a mathematician. I don't know the mathematician's name, but he said, you don't learn math, you get used to it. And I would say that applies to programming. You don't learn programming, you get used to it, right? You get used to how things work, and that's how you put together your programs. And at this point, some of you may have some experience in other languages like JavaScript or Java, and you might be wondering about style and what's more performant, and you may be in arguments about C versus C++, which is more performant most of the time, stuff like that. I'd highly suggest that you get out of comparing programming languages and you just pick one and stick with it, no matter if everybody's saying don't use it for this or X or Y or Z. Most programming languages have some general capability that they're pretty good at. You know, there's people out there who think, well, you shouldn't write a game in Python because it's not performant. Well, maybe there's some arguments, some strong arguments for that viewpoint. But if you're learning how to program in Python is an excellent idea. Anyways, that's my little rant about that. Here it says main calls library function. So notice printf to print this sequence of characters. /n represents the new line character. So here's a very important concept here. In between the quotes, we have what's called a string. And a string is simply a sequence of characters. A character is the most fundamental element of a string, usually representing one letter, like H is a character of hello, E is a character of hello, L, L, O, those are characters of hello. Alright, so those are the different parts of our program. Now just to prove a point, I've added some comments in the source code, right? So this shouldn't affect how our program runs, but we want to confirm that by recompiling the program with our comments in it. Oh, I made a mistake here. Alright, I'm going to clear the terminal because I've got too much stuff going on. And I misspelled something, so notice here's a good learning opportunity, right? We got an error. And the compiler is basically saying, I can't compile your program because it doesn't fit the format that I'm expecting. So it refuses to produce an executable. You know, if I delete hello world.exe, whoops, delete hello world.exe, or remove, I'm trying to remember there we go. So notice our hello world.exe is gone now. Our hello world program is gone, so we'll recompile hello_world world.c. And this may seem a little tedious, you know, working from the command line is sometimes tedious. Now if I ls, I ran my source code through the compiler and the compiler encountered an error. If I ls, there's no hello world.exe. The compiler refused to even make a runnable program because my program did not fit the compiler's expectations. And that is why the compiler is the ultimate authority on the language. It can decide, you know, your code is so messed up that I'm not even going to produce, I'm not even going to try to guess what you're doing, and I'm not going to produce an executable. So I'm going to fix the error that I made and try and recompile. This time I only get a warning, so I do get an executable out. If I ls, I can see it there, hello world.exe. And we'll run it. Oop. And it ran and produced the hello world characters on the screen. Or in the terminal, however you want to use the terminology. So even though we introduced comments into our code, they didn't affect how the code actually ran. And I mean, you can argue, I've heard arguments that you shouldn't be teaching people to put comments in their code that are unnecessary. Let's have an idea that this is our code, we own it, and we can do what we want with it in terms of style, in terms of comments, in terms of design. This is our code. Whatever we think is best, we will do. And if somebody says that's not good enough, or here's a better alternative way, it's good to consider those things, but you don't have to change your code. Unless you're under review in a big company, then you might have to adhere to certain guidelines in order to even get your code into a big project that has multiple people working on it. But we're not in that context right now. We're a single person at our computer. We have full control of our computer. We have full control of our code. And one of the things that's really appealing about writing code from scratch like this is you can build and build and build, and you might produce something really awesome or beautiful. Maybe you produce a server that's really performant. Maybe you make a game that's really popular. You know, there's a lot you can do with a computer program. Maybe you're writing a driver for a piece of hardware that has a critical function in a car, right? Like a fuel injection type thing. So, anyways, one of the reasons I chose to start with C is that it starts, there's this idea about different languages operating at different levels. So Python might be a higher level language than C, and I can certainly see the argument for that. C is more basic, and it's closer to the hardware. That's usually what people say in terms of its why you would use it. And by starting closer to the hardware, I think you'll have a better understanding of just computers in general, and you'll be able to graduate to those higher level languages like Java that use objects. You'll be able to graduate to that in a smooth manner if you start with something a bit more basic like C. But anyways, that's my big long rant, and it is what it is. Our program runs the same, and I will stop recording.